I'm very blessed in that way. But
Yeah.
the art program was interesting because it made me look at cinema different. Where Matt Kenyon had a list. He said, okay, so name things that you're inspired by. So I named a bunch of movies. And then last minute I was adding, different novels I liked. I was always a voracious reader. But another kid said something interesting. He mentioned certain painters, but then he mentioned Rust. He said, Rust. I love that. Rust. Rust on metal. Inspires him. And he said, you don't have to be inspired by just movies and books.
Mhm.
Be inspired by the beauty of worn, like a doorknob that's so polished because it's been used a million times. You could be the beauty of something else, the beauty of age. For me, it's like neon lights inspire me, nighttime lights. It's cigarette. It's not weed or anything. It's nicotine.
I'm fine with it.
All right.
So cool. Hi, Sanjit. How you doing?
Hey, Sajid.
I guess we're doing our coffee time, huh?
I guess so.
On a Sunday afternoon. I just am so excited to have you here for us to have a conversation about creativity. I know that you are a screenwriter and a filmmaker, and that you also color grade. And I just wanted to have a candid conversation about what creativity means to you and how you incorporate it into your life, because it seems like very much a part of what you do.
Oh.
You've been filmmaking for a very long time. So what had you like be interested in filmmaking at all? Like what was the first thing that got you excited about it?
Well, I mean, I don't want to get too much into my childhood, but the home wasn't very happy. It was very chaotic. So to kind of keep our minds off the chaos in the home, me and my brother, we just kind of focus on the TV. Me and
Uh-huh.
my brother Ranju. And my aunt would bring over these bootleg tapes of Batman, Pee Wee's Big Adventure, and we just watched Batman over and over again. And at that time, we were in Haskell, New Jersey, and we are just watching Tim Burton stuff constantly. And Tim Burton's movies are actually a great way for a young kid to be introduced to film directing because his movies back then were so unique. Everything, the cinematography, the production design, the costume. You see it. When you watch a Tim Burton movie, you see what a director is doing compared to another. So you start asking questions like, why does this Batman look different than the 60s TV show? And you could start telling what a director does. Why is Tim Burton always working with Danny Elfman? Why does the music always sound a little similar? It's different, but similar. And then you start looking at the credits. Okay, Danny Elfman did the music. So kind of Tim Burton was like my Spielberg. He was that director that got me excited about cinema. And then as I got older, I was in like I think I was middle school. Of course, you watch movies like American Psycho, Fight Club. Those movies are very inspiring for
So
me.
you were always very interested in the action adventure, which is, or the,
It's not
thriller.
it's not so much action adventure. It's more like thriller, psychological drama, art house. Always violent. There's always some violent element to it. And I was always excited by how people stage violence. Like Tim Burton, his violence in his movies at a young age was very different from like a Lethal Weapon. Like the way that Batman fights in the Tim Burton one, it has a quirky edge to it. Like you would have some guy jump up doing flip overs, and Batman just hits him with something that comes out of his hand, right? And the music is really loud, and it's just a humor to it, right? And the guy just drops. So, and even when Edward Scissorhands the fight with Edward Scissorhands, I remember
Yeah.
he lifts up the scissors and he has the eyes out like this. He looks like a serial killer at this point. I was interested by that, the horror element. Watched a lot of horror movies that weren't very well made. Friday 13 movies. Didn't really see much actual film directing. Now, I'm not knocking the movies, but they just got interchangeable directors. You
Yeah.
know, for those movies. Um, Fight Club, you see the director. Then I got the David Fincher movies. I started watching. I saw The Game, love that. Seven, love that. A Fincher movie, you see him in it. And
One of
so,
the,
yeah, what's that?
go ahead, continue.
Oh, yeah, like any movie that had a unique voice from a director, me and my brother were interested. Down in Kodak movies, you see it. What he's doing, you see it. The frames look similar in movies, composition. Spike Lee movies, you could tell Spike Lee movies. Scorsese movie, you could tell from the camera move, panning, the cutting, the use of music, pop music.
So
So we
you
were,
were drawn to style in some ways. Like
yeah,
people
style.
have their imprint and they have a point of view that is distinctly their point of view. It's sort of pretty cool. That makes them unique. And those
Yeah.
are the ones that popped out for you.
Yeah, the
Sounds
Auteur.
like.
Yeah. The Auteur. When I saw a movie that looked bland, like Made in Manhattan, I had to turn it off. I couldn't watch it. Right. Um. What was it? What other director was it that I was inspired by? Well, American Psycho. That movie has a voice to it because, like, you think it's a horror movie, but it's not. It's more of a satire about the '80s. So anything that's offbeat and you can't put your finger on what kind of film is that movie, like Fight Club, especially. What was that? It wasn't an action movie. It wasn't. There's a thriller element to it, but it's very funny. There's comedic elements. How do what is that? Is that movie a surreal absurdist film? And me and my brother, the movie's meant a lot to us, and we just thought, like, okay, how do we learn screenwriting? So I learned screenwriting in middle school. First screenplay we wrote, very bad. It was called Infection. That was about a zombie apocalypse. I wanted to film it with a video camera because I grew up in this apartment complex in the suburbs. I wanted to film it in this apartment complex. I saw Night of the Living Dead at a very young age. My aunt, ex-husband, was an independent filmmaker. He showed me Night of the Living Dead, so I thought, how about we do a whole zombie movie based in this apartment complex? Wrote a bunch of other screenplays.
So as a kid, you were writing screenplays.
Yeah. It was hard because I thought I could do it with a Microsoft's word processor. My mom loved computers, right? And so did my dad. So my mom we didn't have a lot of money either, but we got this Acer computer, right? My mom was studying at this community college, Passaic County Community College. She studied computer, I think, something with computers, computer programming. So with Microsoft Word, you can't get the margins right. So I wrote the whole screenplay in the wrong format. I just centered the characters' names. That's not how you do it. It has to be margins, right? Then my mom was really nice. She bought me this cheap software it was $40. It was called Hollywood, right? Final Draft is expensive. It's like $1,000, right? But Hollywood was on a floppy disk. And then that was fun. Learning the format, learning how to write. That was a lot of fun. The screenplays were never very good.
But did you make them?
What happened
Which one was the first one you made?
An Optimistic Perspective. That was the one. My brother was working on one that he was working on another one. I was working on that. An Optimistic Perspective, which is a weird title. And
I don't want to skip over that you and your brother you work together, you write together, you create things together, and it sounds like you've always done so, right? Yeah. And so it's sort of cool to see how both of your development at the same time and that you have similar interests or the same interest.
I think you know what it was. It was the town we grew up in was very racist, so we were very isolated anyway. It was very hard to make friends there. Next to impossible. We had a few friends that were great, but like it was so we had a very small clique. So me and my brother spent a lot of time together anyway. And because the language barrier, my parents, they're hard to talk to. So like it made sense that we just worked together all the time. And we needed each other because when we made my first film, An Optimistic Perspective, we looked at the script, still wasn't very good, but my brother had the camera and we stayed up for that camera for 3 years. And the plan was to make a feature film in high school and premiere at Sundance, right? That was a plan, and break into the industry and, make millions of dollars and, live the Hollywood lifestyle. So we made that, so we bought that camera. It was a Sony VX2000. Cheap camera, didn't look very good.
But it probably must have been amazing to be able to work towards that and get the camera and build something.
Well, the camera, that was a struggle in itself. My mom gave us $20 each every week, right, for allowance. So we saved that up. I remember I opened up a bank account right next to my high school. There's a bank there. Every weekend, my mom would give me the $20. I would deposit it, right? The $40. And then you start seeing the numbers grow. Okay, now it's $1,000. I have $1,000 in the bank account now. I mean? It's like little things every week. Yeah. It becomes a big, little things that build, Then I remember I saved the camera cost around $2,500. The better camera is the Canon XL1, which looked great. The actual design of it looked like a movie camera. You ever see it?
No.
The one, it has an interchangeable lens on it, and it costs $5,000 or $3,500. I couldn't afford that. So we got this Sony VX2000. My aunt came in, and my aunt said, okay, I'll give you the next, I think it's $400 to buy.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah, my aunt, Sajine Roy, and she was always a New Yorker, always in Brooklyn or Queens. She lives in Queens now, but she got me that VX2000 camera, and my mom was against it. My mom actually wanted to stop me from buying the camera, right? She wanted to stop me from buying the camera, and I was crying. I was like, I saved up 3 years. I wrote the scripts. You want to make movies? And my mom's like, no, I don't want you to ruin your life with this camera. I don't want you to ruin your life, right? So I'm crying and stuff like that. Eventually, my mom gave in. And this is a kind of funny thing about being creative, too, creativity. In my life, in my childhood, I didn't like talking about creativity. I didn't like talking about I talked about the screenplays and stuff at school, but around my family, around my parents, I couldn't talk about it.
I understand that.
Yeah, because my parents, if you're creative, because me and my brother were creative, it feels like the biggest piece of shit in the world. We're like we're heartless people because you're creative.
It's hard for them because they feel like they're sacrificing. It's the culture too. It's the culture as well within which they feel like they're sacrificing, and then there's no guarantee of what life would look like for you as a creative. And I've experienced that as well, and it's a very common thing. In fact, that's mostly why I have these conversations. So people can see it outside of them at whatever age, see this happening outside of them and understand that not everyone had a smooth, supportive past related to this. But you were pretty insistent, like to have started such a young age. And then even then, your mother did give you all the tools to develop and build up to the point. Yeah, it's pretty astounding, right?
Yeah, she actually helped out. I mean, really, the reality was, well, my mom, she was against filmmaking because my aunt in the UK was insulting the filmmaking dreams. Because my aunt in England, she made it in science. And my mom always looked up to this aunt. Yeah. My mom never realized that maybe this person was just insulting her kids. Yeah. She didn't really care what her kids were doing, right? Yeah. She wouldn't even, like, my aunt in England didn't even doesn't listen to what anyone says, just goes on these long monologues about how great her life is. My mom didn't really realize that people don't really care what your kids are doing, you know?
Well, what's really interesting too is that sometimes also culturally, people like to be able to talk about what their kids are doing and show off and what up and whatever, all that stuff too. Sometimes, I don't know if that's the case as well, but it can be hard when you don't feel that maybe what they're up to is guaranteed, or people go, are you worried about that? You know what I mean? It's just other people putting their own stuff on you.
Things started changing because we made that film, An Optimistic Perspective. We made that movie. It's on YouTube now. We made that film in high school.
What an amazing title, An Optimistic Perspective.
Yeah, it's about a kid that wants to start a suicide cult on the internet in the name of a dead pop star.
And this is high school you write
High school, yeah. And like back then I thought it was a really zany idea. And I was watching movies like Fight Club and I was watching David Lynch movies, right? So I thought with the David Lynch films like Lost Highway, I could make it dreamlike, like I could make it feel like a dream. Does it feel real? Good. But back then that idea was very zany, but it could happen now. Social media, it's very possible now.
Of course it is. But also back then, I mean, it literally was zany. Also what's amazing is that you were thinking in such complex ways, right? At such a young age. It's almost like, in some ways, just hearing you speak, you were born to be a filmmaker and a screenwriter. You're just like born. You came out as a filmmaker, as a screenwriter. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, probably.
If you weren't a screenwriter or filmmaker, what else would you be doing?
Probably be a busboy, incel dude in New Jersey. It would be a really, really horrible life.
It would be a bleak life. I also feel like creativity sometimes it's in you. It needs to come out. I think it's a human right even to express oneself. In many different ways, right? I could collect coins and be just so passionate about it. And the way that I go to collect them and communicate and tell stories about them is all creative, right? But it brings a little bit more meaning, and it enriches your point of view on how the world looks like. Yeah.
See, for me, creativity, it was actually more of a survival mechanism for me and my brother, because we didn't like the home. My dad was a maniac, and I didn't like school because all the race bullshit. Yeah. So it was just like, I didn't like going to school and I didn't like what people were telling me at school. Okay, you can't have friends because you're brown. You can't have a girlfriend because you're brown. You can't go to parties because you're brown. So then what I do then? The movies, I was actually able to bring kind of people got interested by the videos, these small videos we made in school, and they wanted to join in on the videos. That was fun. So that became like our social hour, making these films. In optimistic perspective, that took like 2 years to make. Constant shooting and reshooting, a lot of film festival rejections. We got rejected from Sundance. We got shortlisted for Sundance, so which is cool.
Wow.
But we got rejected
at such a young age.
Yeah. Because I think
that's astounding.
I think they're just being nice. I think because we're kids making this video, and then what happened was
there had to have been something of value, though.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, anyone could watch it now. But then what happened was we were getting like a bunch of film festival rejections, around like 30, 40, right? And my mom was being helpful. She was actually helping us pay these submission fees. And back then it was like $35, right? Which is nothing compared to
what now, it is today.
Like what, like $100, $70.
But 35 back then was something, was a lot even.
Yeah. Money. So she was helping us pay for the submission fees. She got us bootleg editing software from her community college. She worked there. Adobe Premiere 5.1, bootlegged. Because one dude that worked there, he knew that me and my brother were interested in films. So he said, give your kids this, CD, and here's a password, this copy, and they go learn filmmaking. So I was learning editing with these videos, effects, and so my mom was becoming very helpful with that. So we made the film. After the rejections happened, I started becoming more interested in the business of filmmaking. Bought a book called The Film Festival Survival Guide by Chris Gore. Yeah, the 2004 edition. It interviewed directors. There's a director named Joe Carnahan, and he just said, listen, like, if you want to get into a festival, you think just blindly sending in a DVD, you're going to get in. You're deluded. And he was talking about like network like a son of a bitch, know people. And other filmmakers gave tips in there, like, listen, like, if you want to get into a film festival, make sure you hire a producer's rep. Producer's rep, right? Work with one of those because they know the programmers. So, and the back of the book had all these producer's reps. You got a producer. I sent in the tape. We got a producer's rep. She started making calls. Then she called the programmer personally at Lake Placid Film Festival in 2004. We got in, right?
That's the first film?
Yeah, the first film.
In high school?
In high school, yeah. Got into that. And this film festival was serious. It wasn't your typical film festival. Martin Scorsese was there that year. Yeah, Paul Schrader was there. I watched Taxi Driver 1 million times as a high schooler. Paul Schrader wrote it, one of the best screenwriters ever. Russell Banks, he's a novelist. The movies A Sweet Hereafter and Affliction were based on this guy's books. He actually ran the festival. So we premiered at that festival. And I'm around all these people all of a sudden. I'm around, actresses and writers, novelists, film producers.
And how old are you? Like 16, 17?
18 at that point.
18.
Right before high school graduation. So I wasn't really planning on quitting because I don't want to leave this scene. I like the film community too much. I like this community of artists. And not just film, like, Russell Banks being there. There's actually a film composer I met named Michael Montes. I actually saw him again. And Asensio, gorgeous actor from Spain, became a writer-director herself. I saw her at Sundance years later. I digress, years later. And she's like, wait, you were at the Lake Placid.
Oh, wow. She remembered.
She remembered us. Her husband, Craig McNeil, he's a TV director right now. He directs this one TV show. I forgot the name. Lena Waithe produced it. It's a horror show. It's Them.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he directed the second season and more, episodes of Westworld. So he's a big deal. Yeah, he's doing well. So,
So you did this film festival, and like that must have had such an impact on you.
I was never gonna quit.
Yeah,
because I like the world. Like, I'm there at these fancy cocktail parties in these beautiful restaurants at Lake Placid. It looks like Switzerland, right? I would have never even been to a place like that. I even met one guy because they had the Lake Placid Olympics. They had one after party held at the sports museum there, and I met one of the players that played the Olympics against Russia, which was a legendary game. So I'm even meeting athletes like this, even high level athletes. Like, everyone in film you meet is at a certain level. Okay, everybody, and they have different disciplines, right? Because you're really like when you think about creative people. Now, I don't want to sound like like I'm promoting creative people too much, but it's just that they're at a certain level in everything.
There's also another thing about it too, is that at such a young age, you were in the mix with with all these people. So it was within reach, but also your experience then is juxtaposed to what you were experiencing at high school, though you had transformed it. You did transform it by sharing. The way you transformed it is you shared your interests, what you love most, and included them in it, right? Like, so then you were almost like controlling the environment, right? As a director, as a screenwriter, as a director, as a filmmaker, it's within your world. You're inviting them into your world,
Yeah.
which is very powerful for a young person to transform their lives in such, for two young people to transform their lives in such a powerful way.
And you make the rules of your world.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, you know, if you don't like someone, you could say no to people that want to be in your film. You know, you could reject people too. But there's a certain level of power to it. So, you know,
and then also to find other people like you, right? To be the only ones in your environment, or maybe not the only ones, but you said you were more isolated growing up.
that.
And then to go and see, oh, there's so much more like me. What?
Well, it wasn't, there's people that were interested in film, and then there was people that just want to have fun and be and, you know, with their imagination on camera and perform. There was people like that. There was popular kids that just wanted attention. I didn't really let them in the film. I said no. I didn't let them in the film. They were and the one thing I hated about the popular kids, they never actually ever wanted to just be in one of my films. They're always like, I got an idea for a movie. I want to do I want to do a music video where I'm rapping.
They want to take control.
Yeah, like, I'm not just gonna film your bullshit. You know, you got, you know, be my, you know, my move, right?
But I also think about how
they want me to film the football games. Like, fuck that.
Yeah, I'm a creative. I want to create. But it's sort of cool that you went to the film festival and then you met people who were doing what you were doing and had been doing, and see them making livelihoods out of it and living for it and create, and just having it be so much part of their life, right?
Well, also,
more people a little bit like you.
There was also the animators were cool too.
Of course.
Yeah, the animators, because we showed we actually showed another one we called Bowling for a Dream. This little stop motion video. Yeah, we showed 2 films there, and I showed that Bowling for a Dream at my high school talent show. And then I showed my producer's rep, and she said, "Listen, this could get programmed too." So then we kind of upgraded it to look. So we showed it there. So I'm meeting animators like Bill Plimpton, right, a legendary animator. I'm meeting the young guys that are mad cool, laid back guys, fun guys. Everybody's friendly, you know. Like, even at one point, I remember I was really surprised. Again, this is my experience in that town. This one composer, Michael Montes, when my brother asked, could I sit at your table? It's like, yeah, sure. And my brother still says, at that point, I was really surprised that people were nice. You know what I mean?
That's so cool.
Yeah, like someone wouldn't say some like stupid shit, like, you know, go back to your own country. You know, I was like, well, people could be nice.
So so from that experience, what transpired from there? Like you said, you know, you were never going to leave. You were never going to stop.
I was never going to. One thing that slowed me down was college, because my dad didn't want me to go to NYU Tisch.
I know. I experienced that too.
Yeah, I want to go to NYU Tisch or USC or AFI, one of the major film schools. Penn State, great experience. Met a lot of great people there. Not a film industry school.
I get that.
You know, you're not going to make the kind of contacts at NYU.
The connections. Yeah. And I think that sometimes people forget that where you go to school as creative, you know, okay, let's say if you're not a creative, it's like maybe, and then you want to do grad school, you're going to make all your connections for wherever, whatever type of job. So you better go to school in the city where you're going to live to have the connections, to know the jobs, or whatever, all that stuff. Same with undergrad, right? And particularly with creatives. It's like that's where you meet. You end up knowing 40 other people who are filmmaking, and they pull you in on jobs. You pull them in, you ask them questions. This is where you magnify. And as a creative, it's for any job, it's important to have connections. But as a creative, it's like paramount. You can't do things in isolation.
No, you can't.
It just goes much slower. It just goes much slower.
It takes a village to raise a creative.
Oh, right.
Right? Like the community, you really need that support system. You need those contacts. You need those friends. So, like, at Penn State, we made another film there, because I wanted to graduate with something.
Yeah.
I needed another film.
What did you study, by the way? Can I ask?
I was a psychology major. That was from my parents. Psychology. I dropped that. I dropped that for the film program. I didn't like the film program too much because the film program, and a lot of film programs do this, they try to break down cinema into a science, which I don't like, And I was learning a lot of words though. I was learning a lot of words that I didn't know that we were doing in the other films when we're self-learning. Me and my brother were self-teaching ourselves, like 180 rule, make sure, things that, inserts. No, I know, I knew that before, but like,
you're expanding. You're expanding your. I think creatives need to expand their brains regardless.
Yeah.
So at least, if nothing, college did expand your brain, your exposure, your
the actual language and protocol of filmmaking. Then what was it? Then I went to I didn't like the program too much because I was just bored by the we were rewatching a lot of the movies I was watching in high school.
Yeah, you'd already done it, been there, done that, right?
Yeah, I didn't feel like sitting in a dark room watching Apocalypse Now again. I love that movie, but I already saw this movie. The other kids didn't.
Yeah.
The other kids, the other film students, they're mostly growing up on the movies that were available to them. Well, every movie's available to them, but they're growing up on the movies that that came out.
You had given yourself a certain education that put you a little bit more advanced than what their exposure was.
Yeah, so like I didn't really feel like watching those films, and I went to the art program. I talked to the guy at the art program, and we were talking about doing video installation work, things like that. So I went to the program with a professor named Matt Kenyon, and at that time I remember he actually gave me grades as independent study courses to make my film there. So he was very helpful. We still keep in contact.
It's so cool that he created that. I mean, was that created for you?
Yeah.
Right? Because he acknowledged and he saw what.
Yeah, I showed him cuts of the
He
movie.
saw in you what you needed to be able to progress and advance and get something out of it.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
And the education, it gave me a different perspective on filmmaking.
Now, did your brothers study the same thing?
Yeah, same thing, yeah. He was always at my side. And I remember...
You're twins, right? You're twins? Yeah, so you're twins. You're always at each other's side, which is sort of really cool. It also makes it very difficult to forget you two as well. The two of you come together, right?
Kind of like a freak show. These two people that look alike with top
It's like a power, it's like a powerhouse, right? Like it's a power.
Yeah.
To be able to have a partner like that, right? Like you guys can create and bounce off ideas, and it's pretty cool.
I'm very blessed in that way. But the art program was interesting because it made me look at cinema different. Remember, Matt Kenyon had a list. He said, okay, so name things that you're inspired by. So I named a bunch of movies. And then last minute I was adding, different novels I liked. I was always a voracious reader. But another kid said something interesting. He mentioned certain painters, but then he mentioned rust. He said rust. And Matt Kenyon, I love that. Rust. Just rust. Rust on metal. Inspires him. The look of rust.
Cool.
Right?
That's right.
He said, you don't have to be inspired by just movies and books. Be inspired by the beauty of worn. Like a doorknob that's so polished because it's been used a million times. You could be the beauty of something else, the beauty of age. So you could say, it's not to say I'm corny, but like, the sunlight inspired, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's like neon lights inspired me. Nighttime lights, right? AOP and determinism, they're all mostly set at nighttime. The majority of the scenes are always at night, right? I love the dark. I love the night. Half a Life, yeah. The short film.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like neon lights, on steroids,
all up in there.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I almost want to ask, like, let's see.
I forgot I went to Berlin Film Festival too.
Are you with that one?
When after high school, I went to Lake Placid, then the Berlin International Film Festival. I was invited there my freshman year of college. And that was a talent campus. That was 500 filmmakers from all over the world. Wow. Yeah, only 4 Americans toured me and my brother. In Berlin, Lake Placid was this quaint, intimate setting. Berlin, the whole city comes out to celebrate these filmmakers, right? These films. It's funny. Lake Placid, Scorsese was there. Berlin, Ridley Scott was there. Yeah, and Ridley Scott, I like Scorsese. I'm more of a Scorsese fan, but Ridley Scott, what I loved about him was his swagger. Because Scorsese is more like, kind of like, just talks about movies really fast, right? Ridley Scott sits there laid back, handsome, well-dressed, cool, cool as they come. And watching how he was discussing his filmmaking, right? I remember he was telling the other filmmakers, he said, listen, there's digital cameras now. They're not too expensive. Just go out there and make a bloody movie. That's what he said. He said,
And did that impact you?
I was already doing that.
I know.
Yeah. No,
That's what I was
I
saying.
was already doing that. So I was like, I was already doing that. Yeah, really, Scott. And also the fact that he showed his daughter, Jordan Scott. Jordan Scott did a commercial you can find on YouTube for Prada. Long commercial. It's almost like a minute long, 2 minutes long. He's showing his daughter's first film, a commercial for Prada, right? And it was well done. It was just a girl running around the city, running around Paris. So I remember that I found that inspiring too. That okay, film intersects with the fashion world too. You know what I mean? It's not just it's broader than just
Oh,
filmmaking.
so you got to see it in like a bigger sense.
Yeah, and like Prada, Gucci, they all sponsor these film
It's
events.
all storytelling.
Yeah.
It's all storytelling. So what did you do after school? What did you choose to
Okay, well,
focus on?
this is the dark side of the story. Determinism was working with a producer that in New York, remotely on the phone, didn't do anything. So that was the first time I actually had to basically learn you have to lose people. Even if you consider them friends, you have to, you know what I mean? If it's not working.
So that's the movie that you made in college, and
yeah.
you were promoting it now.
Yeah, I was done
And so
with it.
you had someone who was not the right person on the team, and it wasn't going. Everything had pretty much gone smoothly until like this point around working with people.
Making that film was hard too because it was a lot of reshooting and re-editing for no reason. And one thing I learned was when people drag things on is because they don't have the pull to push it out there anymore. That's why it's just she didn't have the context anymore.
The ability, yeah.
Yeah, to actually really get into festivals, to get in front of producers. She didn't have that anymore. That didn't end too well. My parents lost all their money. Recession hit. I know what I was going to do.
This is like 2008?
2008, yeah. I graduated around that time. Went to New York. I took out a student loan right before I graduated. It was me and my brother, $7,000 each. Took that out because I wasn't going to live in that town. I wasn't going to go back there, right?
Yeah. I mean, you'd already been there, done that, left that town. Of course you weren't going to be. Yeah, I get that.
I was like just having a social life. So I took that student loan out, $7,000 each. We used that to get an apartment in Jackson Heights, please. It wasn't very responsible, but like I said, this is about survival.
Well, very much often a creative story is that, right?
Yeah,
how
about survival.
Make it work?
Right? Yeah, we'll manage. We go to New York. We were in Jackson Heights. My aunt in New York is there, so I could spend more time with her. So that was great. Of course, she co-signed the loan, and she knew and she knew how to get apartments in New York like I did. She knew how to get a booker. She knew how to get a rent stabilized apartment. She knew those things.
It's all community.
Yeah.
You needed her resources and her understanding and her knowledge, and even to co-sign the loan in order to get to the next stage.
Yeah,
it does take a village, does it see?
It takes a village. No one's
even for simple things like that, and that's not simple.
No,
that's not even simple. Housing is important, and in New York, it's not the simplest thing.
So we're at Jackson Heights. I have this movie. It's not going anywhere. It's sitting on my shelf. Then my brother, he's dating this gorgeous model. She says, "How about you shoot model tests for agencies? Shoot their models." She bought my brother a camera. It was a Canon 70, right? We had a lot of help. You know what I mean? A lot of help, like you said, with my aunt and this woman. Her name was Dawn. Dawn bought my brother a camera, Canon 70. Then that was the first time I started playing with lenses, interchangeable lenses. I wasn't shooting movies, but I'm shooting these models, playing with lights, And it's like that's a whole other, that's a whole another level
of skill.
Interchangeable lenses, filters. I mean, we use filters on a video camera too, but just using the different lenses, understanding that was a great learning experience.
And it's also goes with the experience that what you said when you were in I don't remember which film festival where you said that, you realize that movies and fashion go together and all of that, right? So even though you're in still form, it still is a continuation of understanding that creativity is fluid.
Yeah, I guess image making. I wouldn't even call it filmmaking, image making, right? Image making. The lighting we did, a big LED flashlight we bought. We did some of the kind of no budget tricks that we did in our high school and college movies. We take a balance board. I would hold the flashlight up to give the model a fill, right? A little fill, little soft light, things like that. playing with shallow focus. That was fun. And at the same time, I'm meeting all these, very, very beautiful women.
Models.
So that was nice. All nice people. Then what happened? Then that producer, my brother reached out to him. That producer that watched our college movie, Determinism. He said, my brother called him and said, "Listen, I need your help. I know we may not be working together as directors, but could I work on one of your films? Because his movies were going to New York Film Festival they had Michelle Williams in them, he had the cast. He actually did a movie called Choke with Sam Rockwell. He's a big deal. So he said, listen, I loved Determinism. I loved your movie. Did you guys edit your movie? Maybe you could edit my film. I'm yeah, I'll do that. I need money. I need again, survival, creativity for survival. Then what happened was I got an assistant editing job on his movie, The Comedy, with Tim and Eric from the Cartoon Network. We did that job for a month. Didn't get paid all that much, but it was a start in the film business.
Yeah.
Because I learned under another editor, Michael Taylor. Very
so you get to learn more from someone else, right?
Yeah. And the one thing about assistant editing is what you learn is it's not like editing in a vacuum. Or when you're editing in a vacuum, you're just editing for yourself. So it doesn't matter how everything's organized. Well, Michael Taylor, being an assistant editor, you learn, okay, you have to log everything by scene number, by scene. You have to put things in bins for the next editor to work on the project. You have to you have to work in a pipeline. So then everything's translatable. Everything's understandable for everybody. So I learned that. So I'm hanging out with Michael Taylor, prolific editors. Mike S. Ryan, that producer, he's there. I met another producer, Larry Fessenden, and he's very impressive. He's a horror director. Peter Falk, I met him. He just produced. He went on to big things. He produced Pearl, those A24 horror movies, Pearl and Maxine. Yeah, so he's doing big things. So I met a lot of people there. Made a lot of friends. The comedy goes to Sundance.
Oh, great.
So then as assistant editor, I go to Sundance. I see Sundance for the first time. I like Berlin better because the weather's better, right? Sundance, you have to really dress up for Alaska. You need snow boots. I didn't have snow boots. I had dress shoes on.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for Sundance. I knew Sundance was cold. I didn't know it was that cold. But I never been to a ski town before.
Got it. But also what's cool is, though, what I noticed is that you go to these film festivals, either you made the movie or you find, you're editing with people, you show it, it's interesting how you stay in the world of it. And it doesn't necessarily look like it's not just from one angle. It's from many different angles that you should stay in the world of it.
Yeah, that's the one thing is for creatives out there, if you're a painter or a filmmaker, it's okay to explore other things as well, other aspects of that craft. Just don't stick to one thing because it just enriches you anyway. As a person, it enriches your work, your life. Sundance was fun. Met some random people there. They're like, yeah, listen, Mike, we're from Austin. We know a bunch of filmmakers there. Why don't you join us? Our friend Mike just had twins. He wants to meet some twins. He just had twins. I was like, Mike who? Austin filmmaker. Mike who? Mike Judge. And I'm like, Beavis and Butthead? I grew up on Beavis and Butthead. Office Space? The guy's a genius. So I'm the and Mike Judge comes in, hey guys, you guys twins, nice to meet you, right? And all these people are humble.
Yeah, they're real people.
Yeah, they're real. And you realize that, look, you could do it because human beings are doing it. It's not people on Mount Olympus. These are very much human beings, down-to-earth people, right? I mean, movies kind of portray directors to be like maniacs, like Entourage. Had that character Billy Walsh, that's kind of maniac.
Yeah.
And then, Stanley Kubrick, there was British press that said all these crazy things about him. All that's myth making. That's myth making. These are just people. But of course, Orson Welles, larger than life director, but he's just a person, right?
Just a person.
He was right? These are people. So if they could do it, you could do it, right? Sundance, that was fun. Just working in New York, doing some editing jobs, got into color correction, working with different filmmakers at different levels. Some people making a $50,000 movie, some guys making $2 million movies, right? Every time making friends, making new friends, and all those friendships always led to other things. One movie we color graded, edited, opened us up to the nightlife. The producer was an owner of all these nightclubs. So then in my 20s, I'm spending my time in nightclubs, and it's like, Leo DiCaprio's over there. This is I'm in these elite nightclubs all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I'm not making a lot of money either. So I'm getting drink tickets. I'm getting free drink tickets, right? So I took advantage of that. That was fun. Like for me, film really opened my life up. I mean, financially, it hasn't been all that I hoped, but socially, the actual life, the lifestyle of it, I was never really driven by money. I was more worried about isolation.
Yeah. And
You know,
it sounds like you're surrounded by people
yeah.
and
So
you're in a world. And what's amazing too is to have experienced a time where you are isolated, where you are whatever, and then to have like, you really don't, you created a life where that's not an issue.
yeah, well, money isn't
If
it?
you choose, money is an issue. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
money
money
is,
is.
it tends to be, it can be an issue.
That's actually what I, I was talking to one friend of mine. I worked on her movie too. I color graded her film, My Art. Her name's Laurie Simmons, world famous artist, right? So then I'm back in the art world too now. I studied art. I'm working on her installation. I'm working on her film, her installation. Everything, everything kind of comes full circle. And her husband, Cal Dunham, he's very famous too. He's a world-renowned artist, known as one of the best painters living today. Right? Humble people, down-to-earth, fun people. Laurie became a really good friend. Her being around her, I got back in the art scene, so that's fun. So I have that social scene. When I was telling her about my life. We're talking at a gallery at one of our events, and not gallery. It was a dinner. It was a dinner. And I said this, like, I think my problem with money is this: I spend so much time imagining the social and the locations and the lifestyle, because how life works, right? You imagine it, then you create it, right? Then I forgot to ever really think about money, and I told her that, like, I think I really have to start, and I'm doing that now. I think I start just thinking about money and imagining money, and then creating a path to get more money, right?
Totally.
That's what I, and I have been. My credit's better. I got a little savings going on, like,
Good.
right. So, like, and you see it. Like, it might not be a big savings, but
Yes, but it's there. It's like progress
start.
because you focus on it. I mean, you really, at a very young age, had the talent to create, see a vision,
And follow
make
it.
a vision, make a dream, make a goal, and follow through
Yeah.
to the highest of expectations, right? Like pretty high. You end up at these film festivals with all these people, pretty high expectations. So then as we get older, sometimes we forget some of the skills that were so natural that we kept on doing and doing and doing, whether because of maybe we're otherly focused or we're just focusing in one narrow spot. But we have the skills to do it, right? And so it's like, how do I apply this here? And it's cool. It's cool to see when you do that you get results.
No, that's the one thing is, for me, is it comes down to imagination. You imagine and then you create.
Yeah.
And you learn by doing, right? Expectations for my life are really high. I mean, and a lot of people do this. Like, when you feel really low, you will kind of daydream about this kind of crazy life that might seem delusional. But if you get 10% there, you're doing great.
It's pretty good. It's pretty
right?
good.
So you aim for the stars, right? But then you end
Yeah,
up
you aim. Yeah,
you end up on top of the Empire State Building. You did pretty great.
you did it.
Yeah, you did well. I think it's
I'm
when you
gonna
have low expectations. That's the problem. When you have low expectations
when
for
you
you.
have low expectations too. Yeah, you might. Low expectations are pretty interesting in that. I wonder if having high expectations, if you don't actually sit and acknowledge where you've come from, you might be a dissatisfied person. So it's like it's a thing about managing things. If you have low expectations, maybe you might be more satisfied. I'm not quite sure. Um, but maybe you're playing it a little safe. You're playing it safe and not experiencing some of the things. One thing that's clear is that you're not afraid to try new things. From what you've shared about yourself, you're not really afraid to try new things. You're willing to get in there, figure it out. It seems like a lot of the things you learned were self-taught. And then you went to go learn more from people who knew.
Yeah.
You weren't like, I can't do this because I don't know. And like you get a piece of equipment, you're like, okay, we're going to make the most of it. How do we figure it out?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's I think that's a very important skill, a very important way of viewing the world in order to find creativity or even have curiosity to learn something new and experience something new.
Well, I mean, like, my fear was I knew people, because the town I was in, a lot of people didn't leave. Right, a lot of people stuck around, and a lot of people died of fentanyl or drunk driving. Yeah, so on Facebook, I see rest in peace, rest in peace, rest in peace. These people that died 27, 28, right?
So young.
Yeah, so young. I didn't know them all that well, but the fact that they still stuck around the town, I think they just couldn't imagine. I wonder how the next town looks like, how my life will be there. I knew these people since high school. You know what? They're my friends now. Well, okay, I don't want to leave my friend circle. You know what I mean? I don't want to leave that because I don't know what it is to go to New York and try to make a bunch of new friends, right? I don't know what that is. Like for me, that is death. To me, that's the most dangerous thing is when you can't improvise and adapt. Like low expectations.
And in some ways, we never know like why we experience what we experience. In some ways, maybe the discomfort of it was necessary for you to experience, like to be the kind of person where, okay, we're going to do with what we got, like figure it out, see the goal and move past, move past this,
Yeah,
right?
true,
Like
yeah.
this is problem solving. This is like, these are important life skills. So
I
I
mean,
wanted to ask you,
I glamorized a little bit, but there was times I was very frustrated when I was a
of
kid.
course,
Like
that's all part of it.
especially with a computer, because filmmaking is all computer based now, right? And back then was the beginning of it on a cheap computer that was modified to edit video. I remember it crashed at one point. It crashed a lot. I was screaming because I thought I lost all the footage. And then we had to back everything up because computer's bullshit. It's a piece of junk. So we had to back everything up on DVDs. Okay, these DVD discs are 4 gigabytes. All right, so then I had in the drawer like a bunch of DVDs that are burned, like burnable DVDs as data disc, right? No, you have to you learn by doing. You learn by doing.
You learn by doing, but then also look, we have limitations, right? And so the limitation might be budget, and budget will create the tools that you're using, and the tools might not be ideal.
Yeah.
And yet still part of the process is pushing through, right? Those limitations to still get what you need, right? I'm sure that there were struggles. I'm sure that there were, maybe you have more to say about that. But
Well, with that video camera, right? It was like that VX2000. That's the same camera that they shot Jackass on. It doesn't look like a movie at all, right? It doesn't look like a movie at all. The motion looks like video, of course. I mean, now with iPhones are way more advanced than that video camera. Okay, so what do we do to make our movie look like a film? So I go on the internet, I read about Anthony Mantle, and at this time he was shooting the Dogma 95 movies on video. He went on to win the Oscar for Slumdog Millionaire years later. He was talking about digital. He was one of the first DPs, cinematographers, to work with digital video. He says, okay, shoot in low light. Digital doesn't look, these cameras didn't look good in the sunlight. Like film, 35 millimeter film, 60 millimeter film, captures light beautifully, right? These cameras, he writes, shoot in low light. Okay, so I see it. Okay, so we use a little a desk lamp. Okay, this doesn't look so bad. It looks nice. Okay, it looks dynamic, right? It doesn't look flat.
yeah,
Then he mentions the contrast curve. He's like this, listen, these cameras are never going to have as much color as film. They never will. But the contrast curve, the black and white, is similar to film. Okay, we're shooting in black and white. And you know what? It'll make it moody. We'll make it moody. We'll make it look like, an old film noir, where the guy is moving through shadow. So the limitations have to look deliberate. Okay, it's shot in black and white. All right, so that's a choice.
Yeah, you chose with it instead of pushing against and ignoring the limitation. You go with it.
Yeah, like
that's what it sounds like.
Right, a choice. Like another thing we did was I added a wide angle adapter to it with a half black Pro Mist filter. Right, that Pro Mist filter will make the blacks more dark. Right, and it'll soften it. Right. Okay, so because digital has a little softer look, let's make it more soft so it looks like a choice. Right, like
wow.
We actually enhance the limitations of digital.
It also goes with what you said about the directors that spoke most to you when you were younger, or just in general, were people who had style. So so for you chose within what you had, this is a distinct style I'm going with, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be happenstance. We're going to make the choice for the style.
Oh, and then we worked on. My brother was doing all the camera where I was acting the movie. I'm not an actor, but I'll always be around. So
yeah.
But we did things like we had a skateboard. We put a video camera on a skateboard, put it on a desk, make it move towards the character's face. Okay, we're like, this camera's small, so how about we make sure to do as much dynamic camera movement?
Yeah.
Because it's not like moving a big Panavision camera. It's small, so it's more fluid. Oh, like a choice, right? Oh, it's a limitation, but it's a choice now. That's an advantage. We put the camera on skateboards. We bought this cheap tripod dolly. that could kind of roll around on. We had a wood floor back then in my apartment I lived in. Go moving around in cool ways.
What year was this around?
Oh, this is around 2000, high school, 2002 to 2004.
So this is before people are having these things on YouTube, sharing or whatever, all of this. Like
Yeah.
you are figuring it out in your own mind, out of your own creativity, how to do this.
Way before.
No one's showing you, how.
No, just watching movies, and just imitating it. Like I remember specifically the camera movements was Miller's Crossing, the Coen Brothers. There's an opening shot of just a guy, a dolly shot of just a guy pouring a glass of whiskey. Just a dolly shot going in, right? But I remember me and my brother would always notice that right away you could tell this movie's well made. Like I wasn't too familiar with the Coen Brothers' work, but right away you could tell these directors know something.
They're doing.
Right? You know when you watch a movie, you could just tell the directors know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? You could tell like from the opening shot.
When there's a perspective, when there's
It
usually is perspective and a viewpoint that's distinct.
And the style. It's those cameras small, did a lot of dolly work on that. Actually, not a real cheap dolly.
So right now, how do you maintain or cultivate your creative mindset right now in your daily life?
Daily life, creativity actually takes a lot out of me. Writing used to be a real chore for me. And like I said, I had no filter. I have no filters, I'll be honest. In my early 20s to actually sit down and write a screenplay. And this is what was for half of like the first draft. I mean, my brother would drink. We would drink a lot of alcohol, right? Yeah. In the early 20s. I wouldn't do that now. Just to get me. And so what my brother did was with the writing, okay, let's get through the first draft. My brother was just chugging back beers. And he just typing, okay, just the first draft was just 50 pages.
Yeah.
Not well written, right? Just to get something done. Even though it's 50 pages. All right, I read through it. And there was like ridiculous stuff in it too, because my brother used to work at a cheesecake place as a busboy. At one point, the main character in Half a Life takes a knife that he cuts cheesecakes with and grabs and uses it against somebody, right? Like just ridiculous stuff, right?
It's great.
Yeah, he used to use a same knife on these cheesecakes. Yeah, be thought about it. None of that's in the final script. So he gives me the 50 pages of this kind of just, very basic kind of writing. It's basically an outline. I take it, I build upon it, refine it, right? Find it more. I give him my draft. He refines it. He brings in more stuff into it. Because it's a lot easier. It's just a lot easier to build off of something that exists.
Already exists, yeah.
Yeah, because and people do it every day. You see it. People walk out of a movie theater. Oh, I wish the movie went this way. I wish the movie went that way. I don't like that twist. This should have happened. You see, everyday people are being creative.
Yeah.
With these movies, they have their own ideas for these films, right? So we wrote that Half a Life. Started sending that out to contacts in the industry we knew. Couldn't get people to even read it, so we had to make more contacts. And so as we were networking for color correction work to pay the bills, at the same time we're meeting producers who we send the script to.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's been taking longer than expected.
But yeah.
Creativity every day of my life. Every morning I drink my coffee, I get buzzed. I get a buzz from the coffee. Watch a lot of YouTube videos, like montages, like director tributes to get me inspired. Like there'll be a Spike Lee tribute. So you see a montage of all his movies put together with some music tracks. I love watching those. Just to get me hyped, right?
Yeah.
Working out, lifting weights, that helps me not think of.
I wanted to shift into Half a Life because that's currently the story you're telling.
Yeah.
And so what compelled you to tell that story?
Oh, well, when I first came to New York, I had to go to before I started editing, I had to go to the welfare office.
Yeah.
With my brother, and I saw, and it's all minorities. It's all minorities, all black and brown people.
Because of the neighborhood you're in,
Queens. Yeah. One white guy, and he looked Eastern European, and he's with us. Right? Didn't talk much, didn't speak English, had a very thick accent. Saw him. Another, although I was fascinated by lighting, so like just the institutional lighting of the welfare office, like how oppressive it is. So I saw this one white dude there. Saw another guy in the elevator, big Star David, a big dragon tie, a top hat. He looked like a comic book character. I saw him who was that guy? People were kind of creeped out by, and he had a tear tattoo. And this guy was old, like 60. Saw him there with his paperwork. Anyway, so then my brother, he was like just kind of rambling on some ideas. Me and my brother, we just kind of would just come up with silly ideas. And he just was said, like, listen, I got this idea. How about we do a movie in Jackson Heights? All Indian people, all Hispanic people, main characters, a Bosnian Muslim refugee. And he gets shot in the opening of the movie, and he has to figure out who did it. And he has amnesia, and he has to figure out who did it. He just came up with like that. That's my idea for it. Like, and
while you're in the office, while you're in.
No, it wasn't in the office. It was at home. At home.
Okay. But cool. But it came from that.
The office, yeah. So because the welfare system back then, it might be different now, but post recession, it was like they made like a whole like process where you have appointments, you have to go in there, hear someone speak, hear another person speak. A lot of the advice the welfare office was giving people wasn't helpful. It wasn't. I was like, one lady came in and said this, listen, if you need a job, I went there for a jobs program, but actually a welfare center. She was like, one lady came in and said, if you need a job, talk to your friends, talk to your family. Then one dude was like, I don't have any friends. Like, what? Then talk to your family then. I don't have a family. And she's like, why? I just got out of prison. I don't know anyone. It's like how do you, the system itself wasn't very, no. They don't get you customer service jobs that pay minimum, right? I actually did one of those.
How do you pay New York City rent?
Yeah, you can't pay shit with that. Thank God my brother, I was just actually talking to my brother about this. The amazing things happen when you ask. That producer we met a year ago, my brother just emailed him, asked, could we work on your movie? And that started this whole freelance. I'm making more money than a minimum wage, So like my brother, he's like, he always mentions that the amazing things that happen when you ask. Yeah, that these Eastern European people around all these brown people, because that's the image. They are talking about the image,
And it's also the reality of things that unless you live it, I don't think most Americans would ever think that it would look like that. They have an image of what it looks like, but the reality of what it looks like is something different.
You have to see it.
Yeah.
But when my brother, I don't know where my brother came with the Bosnian. Oh, yeah. We were doing a photo shoot for a model.
Yeah.
See, it's that multiple thing. We're doing a photo shoot for a model, shooting for another agency, a small agency. The makeup artist, I think she was the makeup artist was in Jackson Heights. She wouldn't shake my hand. She wouldn't shake me and my brother's hand because she said her religious beliefs, right? She was a Muslim.
Got it.
She was a white woman in Jackson Heights. And I thought that's interesting. These white Muslims that are very much comfortable in these very multi-ethnic environments and just, live their lives, right? So that inspired the evil terroristic character that Finn Wittrock plays. So we wrote the screenplay. I took a long time to get right. It was really hard to write it because you want to do a realistic, natural, gritty urban story, but give it elaborate plot, which is really hard. And I was never that comfortable writing. For me, working with the camera and editing, that came more naturally, right? Writing was always a chore. I'm more comfortable now with it. We wrote them multiple drafts, went to multiple different endings, became different movies. Like at one point, I remember one draft, actually the main character basically shoots up a bunch of innocent people, right? Which is not, it's very, I'm not going to give it away, but it's very different now. But I remember how violent the ending was. That didn't feel right.
Did you write a feature first or the short first?
Oh, the feature's been around for years.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote the feature, I wrote the feature screenplay, the first draft of it, more than 10 years ago. And I was just sending it to producers. One producer told me, like, listen, I remember he's actually a friend of mine, but he told me, like, listen, I can't read your screenplay because the screenplay that I read either have an actor attached or I get a check where it's just a line producing job, just like a job to produce. So I don't really have time to read a script, right? Tells me this. Okay, so I had to get an actor attached. So how do I get an actor attached? Right? Another producer tells me, casting director. Okay, so then I look at my network. I look on Facebook. I see friends of friends. I see a friend of a friend is a casting director, known one, right? Reach out to my friend. He says, okay, well, you get a coffee with them, get some more knowledge, right? Because actually, social media is actually great for networking too. You kind of see who knows who, right? Met with the casting directors. They love the script. And they said, we'll get some good actors attached to this and they'll help get the movie greenlit. So their idea was Sebastian Stan. And this is years ago. He wasn't Sebastian Stan today. He got nominated 2 times, Sebastian Stan, they recommended him. I think Sebastian Stan will be good for this because casting directors, when it comes to indies, they have to predict who is going to be a big deal. So they have a list of actors that they've seen audition multiple times, and they kind of it's almost like sports betting. right? For the indie. Okay, this actor, he's going to blow up because he's in the next Tarantino movie that's coming out 2 years from now, but get him now. So Sebastian Stan said no. I wasn't all that disappointed by it because that was the first pass. I mean, you have to remind yourself that was a first.
Yeah.
It's not going to go well the first time. So with ICM at the time loved the script. They sent me a whole list of actors, how it's worked for different roles that they recommended. For Evo Terzic, the main character, Finn was there. Other characters, Michael Keaton was there right before Birdman. Right?
So they sent you a roster of actors?
Roster of actors, if they like the script, right?
Yeah.
They like the script. So a client came, like, again, this is how...
So you had hired this casting director?
Yeah, I had to hire him, yeah. I had to save up 5Gs. So I hired, that's what a lot of producers do. They get development money, they hire the casting director. So we hired them. Then ICM was getting involved. Because ICM and all the agencies love this script the most. The list, Finn was there. I wasn't familiar with Finn's work. A client came in for a color job, a new grad student. So, after I was done doing the work on his film, and this is how you get knowledge too from working in the industry. I just asked him, like, you ever do the casting process where you attach talent to a script? Like, no, I haven't. Like, you want to check out this list that ICM sent me? He's like, yeah, man, I'll check it out. And so then he was looking at the list of the actors, and he was like, Finn Wittrock? And I was like, yeah, I'm not familiar with his work. Like, that guy's amazing. He's super talented, right? And he's like, I haven't seen his work yet. And then he's like, you got to watch his stuff. Watch American Horror Story Season 4. Watch that. American Horror Story Freak Show. That's what it was. So I watch it, right? I see Finn in it playing Dandy Mon. I saw that performance, and I felt the same way I felt when I saw Christian Bale in American Psycho for the first time when I was a kid, before Christian Bale became Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Right? And that kind of acting that Finn did in that show, it was highly technical, at times campy and bordering on over the top, which is a very hard balance, right? But still horrifying. I was always scared of him every time he was in a scene. I was horrified by him.
Yeah.
So, like, to be an actor to do that, okay, this guy, that means this person is super talented and super technical and skilled, right? I tell my casting directors, like, I really want this actor to play the role. And like, well, he's not, you may not really push the button for financing yet. And I would look on websites, and I do a lot of internet research, and I saw on goldderby.com that he was on the predictions to get an Emmy nomination for the Horror Story, right? He was on the list, right? It's like sports betting. There's people that, So we sent him the screenplay. He reads it. I talked to him on the phone, right? And he was just like, we just get along, just talking about just life, having fun, me and my brother and him just on the phone, just making jokes, whatever. Chill, down to earth guy. The most talented people are always the most humble. It's the losers that are the jerks. Right? The talented people, the successful
the
people.
climbers.
Yeah, like it's usually the posers that are mean. Finn was super nice. And he said, why did you think I could play this role? And I told him that his acting in American Horror Story Freak Show is nothing like this guy in Queens, right?
Yeah.
But I just see it. I just saw it, right? I just felt it in my gut. And he was so nice and so friendly that for my first real movie with a real budget, I'm not going to be... You want to make a movie with people that are basically...
You trust. And are going to be good, and you can trust them. And
they're nice. Because like, you don't need it's an actor that's going to give you a hard time. So Finn got to know him more, met with him a few times, took him to the neighborhood, right? Really just, like being around me. We became good friends at this point. What happened was going through different producers, a lot of dead ends, trying to get the film made. And this is part of the process too, about trying to get a movie made. A lot of, you get a lot of dead ends. Like some producers, they might know people, their contacts, don't go for it. And then what happened was my current producer, Julius Pryor, right? I met him on a color job. I color graded his movie he produced, Cronies, which went to Sundance.
Yeah.
Executive producer by Spike Lee. So I called him, sent him the screenplay. He gets on right away. And his whole thing was this, like, listen, I had great success with another project. Do a proof of concept short, okay? That's currency now. That's a standard. And, I remember Finn was always down about it. Finn's like, listen, man, I'll fly out there and shoot me walk around Jackson Heights for you, okay?
Yeah.
This short film was done for no money. And I'm not lying about that. No money. But it basically cost $50,000 because of all the contacts.
Yeah.
My DP, Shlomo, who's been a good friend, he brings all his lenses.
Yeah.
$2 worth of these beautiful vintage lenses. And me and Shlomo and my brother, Shlomo Goddard, the DP, shout out to him. We also about lenses and different looks, especially using vintage lenses, old lenses, imperfections and lenses to kind of counteract the sharpness of video. So we get these great lenses. Almost like, I'm going to work on this. Shlomo and Finn are friends because I recommended Shlomo to shoot. Finn's a director too. Finn's going to direct a movie soon. Great script, basic species, shout to him. So Shlomo's like, you know what? You guys are going to work together. We're going to make something for one day in Jackson Heights. Yeah, I'm down. He brought his lenses. Finn's there. Luis is there. Everyone's working for free. I go there the day before, and this is how community works too. Down to Akbar Kiran. Akbar's a Bangladeshi man in Jackson Heights. I met him at Rite Aid when I used to buy a lot of beer from the Rite Aid next to me, right?
Uh-huh.
And he's like, yeah, I remember you used to always buy beer, right? I'm like, yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. But I met him. I called him up and I said this, like, listen, like, do you know any locations we could use? And he said, listen, I always told you guys, they're going to make a movie in Jackson Heights. I'm with you, okay? Akbar knows everybody. So we're like, we need a print. And so like I take pictures of the locations. I look around. There's this beautiful alleyway I always wanted to film in, right? Beautiful alleyway. And I took pictures of it and I said, like, we got to film a scene there for the full movie. And it has all this neon lights, signage. Right there is a print shop called Graphics. So when I call Akbar and he says this, listen, I know a print shop. I don't own a print shop at Graphics. I'm like, okay. So we get a shop and we get this big, beautiful alley. And you don't see that in New York that much. A big alley with a print shop at the center, different businesses during close shop. Okay, so that's serendipitous. We filmed there at Graphics World for free. They don't charge. Just for a day. Just because of Akbar, really. Because he's so respected in the community.
Yeah.
Leader. And it's a very tight-knit community. The Bangladeshis in Jackson Heights. We get this beautiful alley. Beautiful print shop. Looks just like what I envisioned for the script. Yeah. It has beautiful stuff in the print. And this is the beauty of imperfection. They have a Coke bottle machine, old one. And they got security cameras just stacked on top.
So
right?
Cool.
Right? And they have these power strips just duct taped to the wall. All these plugs right in, right? And all the curls and all the wires. I love it because it looks like, okay, this is something because the main character forges documents.
Yeah.
Fiction documents, right? So it's, okay, he's in this underground place that he made himself. He probably put this security camera surveillance thing by himself. He's a highly technical character. And everything's scrapped together, right? I guess the beauty of scrapped together. We go to a print shop. Lomo's doing his thing. One day filming. We get everything done. We get everything we need. Some improvisation, some things that we didn't have. That's a great experience. Finn's performance. Everybody loved his performance as Ivo Terzic. Everybody's like, oh my God, like he's so good in this role, right? Shout out to the other cast member, Savita Sokol. She was the other character. And this is not even a part of the script. This is a separate story. This is actually based years before the movie's based. But I just wanted people to know who this guy is.
Yeah.
Right? Because like we say Bosnian Muslim, from Queens, someone might not understand, like, what, does he have a thick accent? Is he Arab or is he Indian? They may not even know.
It's very specific.
Yes.
That most Americans probably wouldn't even understand or know unless they were a New Yorker or even someone specifically from Queens.
Yeah, they wouldn't
understand the implications and the nuances. And
also, they might have a different vision of what this guy is. They might think, okay, it might be a fool from The Simpsons. They don't know because like usually ethnic characters would have thick accents, exaggerated accents. Do you want to lead a thriller with a character like that?
No.
So we made that short film. I showed it to director friends of mine, including Mary Harron. She did American Psycho. She became a friend of mine. Another reason why I never quit either, I'm around people that do it. Yeah. I never quit. You have to be around people that actually do it and make money doing it and make a living doing it.
Yeah, so you have evidence all around you all the time. And then also the thing is you also have the resource to ask, like, hey, I'm doing this. Look at this list. What do you think?
Yeah, So I show it to people and it took so long, but after the proof of concept short, it was actually meant to be a something with the script. A lot faster reactions.
Who edited it? Who edited the proof of concept?
I came up with I wrote it. I very much wrote it. My brother came in later. We both color graded it, edited it. That actually one thing too was like editing all my years in color correction with thousands of dollars of equipment in my house, my apartment. So I'm giving this short film that shouldn't look this good. I'm giving it basically thousands of dollars worth of color correction for free. So that's the gift I'm giving myself. you know?
But, and also though, like if you look at it,
Yeah.
all the years of development, right? For other reasons, right? And then now it's benefiting something you're creating yourself.
Yeah, I mean, like, and also the collaboration too, like on the short film, like the tricks you learn for years. Like I remember one thing that slow mo. He saw the first he saw the first cut of the short film, and he just said, "Listen, it looks too clean. Could you make it more dirty, like film?" It's like, okay, so how do I make it look like film, 35 millimeter film? And I do a lot of film emulation and color correction. Oh, red. Oh, okay, I'll add red shadow. You know, I'll add a little dash of red, and the character's wearing a red leather jacket. Actually, my jacket, right? Finn's wearing that. All of a sudden, the red shadow makes it look more like film. You know,
Interesting.
the layer of grain makes it look more like film. The highlight control I get with HDR green, right? Like your shirt right now, how it's kind of overblown. See, if we're shooting that on film, that wouldn't happen because film could capture highlights really well. Now with digital, we got an Alexa 35, the best camera around. Now with HDR green, I could bring that down, and you can see more detail, you know, in the highlights in your shirt.
And
Every
when
time,
I hear you talking like this, I think about all the development and the work to understand and like the discipline to understand all that technicality, all those technical things, to be able to be creative and be able to solve a problem like that and sort of have an idea of what might work.
well, that's what you bring to it is experience, time, all the knowledge that you gain from your friends, you know, in the same field, actually different fields too. Like, you know, Lori's a filmmaker, right? But Lori Simmons, she's known as an art photographer. You know,
Yeah.
she's a legend like that. So talking to her about photography, I'm learning a lot. I remember I sent her the short film, and she was like, "Oh my god, it looks gorgeous," because that's what she always said. Like when we're color grading, she's like, "Gorgeous, gorgeous." Well, fix that, fix this, fix that. You know, she said that meant a lot to me. Mary loved Finn's performance. She was like, "Oh my god, he's so like." Everybody saw Finn's performance, so I want to see this guy.
It's
This
cool
cat.
that you were able to pinpoint the right person to carry the piece. Now, right now,
God.
the proof of concept is complete, right? And you're looking to use it to raise funds for the film, right? Because also another thing is, I feel like it's also to show what you and your brother can do, right? Because you want to direct it.
Yeah, look, we have to show them like, you know, I call stylized naturalism, like movies like The Insider or Heat or Traffic. These are very realistic, natural movies. They're done in a realistic way, natural performances, real dialogue, real behavior, but they're done in a visual way. You know, Traffic is the most distinct looking one. It's like crime epic, right? Um, Stylized naturalism. Okay, so the movie feels gritty and real, but it looks cool, right? That matters to me. It has to look cool, not just, you know, handheld flat colors in the streets, right? No, it'll look grainy, it'll look gritty, but it looks cool, like a Requiem for a Dream, right? So it looks good and interesting. So we premiered at the Buffalo International Film Festival. I couldn't make it to the screening. I heard people liked it. Me and my producer start sending it out to people, much faster reaction because like they're almost necessary at this point, right? And everybody loves Finn. Finn's profile blew up even more because Don't Move on Netflix. I had like 50 million views on Netflix, so his profile is even bigger now. Now I'm not at liberty to talk about the production company involved, but they're involved now. Well, how it works is this: I'm working with one production company now, right? They have a lot of contacts, great people, love working with them. They just had a big hit with another project at Sunday, big sale, multi-million-dollar sale, right? So now that opens up more opportunities for their slate of films, and Half a Life is on their slate.
So really, that's so cool, so awesome.
I mean,
And what it did, you know, what's interesting is that you had it. You found that there were barriers. You got told what to do. You figured out how to do it with the budget that you had, with whatever obstacles there were. And then you were at a new stage. And at each point in time, it wasn't even just, it was at every stage there was like, okay, what's needed? Okay, let's put it in. Whatever it takes to put it in, right? What's needed? Okay, let's put that in. And so that's quite profound. And I think filmmaking isn't just, and you said you wrote the script 10 years ago, right? Almost.
Yeah, but
Filmmaking is not like a short, it doesn't just happen overnight.
Oh, no, it doesn't. I mean, like some projects could get off the ground faster. This is actually interesting. Like this is actually one reason why it's actually hard, why most movies aren't very good. Another producer I know, great screenwriter, right? Great career screenwriter, writes for Marvel movies, everything. He just told me this, listen, if you want to sell a script in Hollywood, what you have to do is this: write a horror script about a bunch of teenagers going out to the woods, find an amulet. Okay? They find an amulet. Like this is how you, if you want to make money in film, like if you like serious money, they find an amulet. The amulet unleashes some ghost that's killing them off one by one. There's a final girl, and then she's, uses a spell to kill the ghost or something. Kill the ghost again, I guess.
The
He said that,
formula.
right? Like any kind of so many movies like that. He said, like, really, if you want to make money in screenwriting, like in Hollywood, this is why it can become discouraging. You gotta write crap. you know, I was like, this is why movies are so bad. Like, this is why movies are so bad. But he was very real about that. He's like, I could help you do it. But me, could I really put my mind, that's a hard part for me. Like, do I really want to devote all that time to write something like that?
Well, and that's also a whole thing because given what we just said and how long it takes, and even if it takes shorter, it goes quicker,
Yeah.
it still is a lot of investment, a lot of time,
Takes
a lot of resources.
And it takes a lot out of you.
And it takes a lot out of you. So are you going to birth the half, the piece that is not like, some people find like, if you feel like it's your purpose, or maybe not your purpose, but I don't know how you might think of it, but if you feel like this is what I'm meant to do, it might actually matter what you do create. And some people, sometimes at this period of time, you're not willing to make that compromise. Maybe there will be another time, and that'll be fine too.
Maybe,
I think that there's the balance of that in creativity is like what is for just work and money and survival, and what is for, like you started color grading out of survival. And here it is coming to benefit you, right?
Yeah.
So, what is survival? What is not? Balancing what that looks like. Some people want to make money, like they feel like they can make money off of the very thing that they feel like is their creativity. And some people don't want to have that pressure, right? They make money here. And then if it makes money, it does. And if it doesn't, I don't know. There's just so many choices and so many options, and a no today might be a yes tomorrow.
Yeah. That's, it matters because it's hard for me. I'd be honest too. It'll be very hard for me to not write something crazy, like because we have Half a Life, right? That's a crazy script. Then I wrote another hard screenplay called Wavelength, which I was trying to sell, and I remember my producer said this is too unique. You gotta write that. You got to write an ambulance script, right? That's just too unique. You should direct this. Another crazy script, even more wild, more out there. I don't think I could actually write a romantic comedy. I don't think I could write like a very basic horror story. I don't think I could do it. I think there's writers out there that are actually really talented at working with studios that know that have that skill set. It's in them. And it's like, and we see it with people, like, how there's some people out there that are just great at conforming. They're going with the flow. Like they could do a corporate job and go there 9 to 5 every day. They could do that, and it doesn't faze them. For me, I don't think I could. I don't think I just could write like that.
Well, it's very clear. Even just talking to you about your story, you've always been against the grain. Oh, and then even then, like you weren't going to conform. So instead, what you did is you went and you create your own thing and invite people in, and you're recreating that again with the movies, right? I create my movie and invite people in and see who works, who doesn't work. You create your own world. And there's some people who can go and you still do help people in their own dominions, right? Like you go and help edit, you go and help color grade.
Yeah,
you are invited, but you're not like permanently there.
Yeah, color grading it's become a moderately successful business, color correction, because of the amount of work I put into other filmmakers. Because I know how important a filmmaker's film is, so I'm not going to half-ass it. Like a lot of the bigger post houses, sometimes they're charged by the hour. So I put a lot into those films. I make my living like that. But it's funny, like for me, color grading a movie, doing highly technical work for money is just easier for me than having to get a bunch of black coffee with my brother and spend a month writing a screenplay I don't want to write.
Exactly.
The actual writing just takes a lot out of me. Like
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So you only want to have the babies that you want to only develop the babies that you want to make.
Yeah, I'm not a nanny. I'm not going to take care of another. No, I'm not taking
Another
care of
person's
another.
baby. Exactly. Exactly. It's a
Yeah,
lot of work and effort.
right.
I
Like
just, I
there
just
are
want to say
people that
thank
are
you.
great at that.
Yeah, there are. Yes, everyone has their own
Yeah,
set of things.
like I'm not
But
bad.
from
Yeah.
the beginning, from the story that you tell me of when you were in middle school and high school, you were going to be the kind of person who goes to creates their own movie and makes their own movie.
I guess
You
so.
can
Yeah.
see it, you can hear it from the beginning throughout your story. Is that's who you are. And that's really cool.
Yeah, like like some things really make me like some things upset me sometimes about it. Like I'm 39 years old now. I thought it was gonna happen sooner because I started so young. I thought it would happen sooner, but then again, like I think like all the experience I had till this point will help me make a better film. Like I think about that. What if after determinism? What if I did get a big studio contract to do like Star Wars Rogue 10 or something, right? There's that could have ruined me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that could have ruined me. That would have, everything happens for a reason. If I did Star Wars Rogue 10, first of all that money I make out that movie would be gone because I was, being in my 20s, I know how to spend money. I didn't,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well,
You'll never know. And also, like, why not choose
yeah,
the present? Why not choose what's here as opposed to like
yeah,
reject, resist, want something different? Like choose like, and then I think when we choose what's presently in front of us, we have more power in like creating more of what we want because we're in reality of what's here. So like here I am. There's freedom. There's time. There's like I get to try things, make mistakes, start all over without everyone watching, right?
yeah,
I get to have like the calm before a storm. Like at a certain point in a career, right? There's no time to maybe even create, or there might not even be as much time to have conversations, or to ideate or try new things without more risk involved. You
yeah. I
know?
mean, like that's the one thing. Like like my lifestyle, I died. My lifestyle is actually quite. I mean, at this point, is very basic.
And
You know,
autonomous, right? Like you
yeah,
have freedom over all your time,
yeah. So like
probably.
I don't have expensive habits. I don't care for luxury too much. I remember my father he always wanted a Mercedes. My father always wanted a car, and he was always big on cars. He always wanted a Mercedes, never got one, very much to impress strangers, right? He always wanted these cars. I mean, he test drove one Mercedes in the 80s, and he still talks about it. How much you love, it's being seen in this car. For me, I don't care about materialism,
Yeah.
impress people. I don't care about that. Like, I'd rather have my work impress people. So I never really cared for that. So my lifestyle is fairly cheap. My watch I have is, it's a nice watch, but it's not a Rolex.
Yeah.
But do I want a Rolex? I mean, do I want to wear a Rolex and then get a scratch by accident?
Well, what I find though is that the luxury is you can sit down with your brother. I mean, the luxury is like, that doesn't mean that you can't have those things and you won't have those things. You will have them, right? Eventually, if that's what you want, right? But ultimately also it's like the luxury is the time to write scripts, the time to um and sometimes money can give you the luxury too,
Yeah,
but also having objects, if you don't have the money, having objects doesn't allow you to have the time, right? Because you might be working for what you've spent.
yeah.
So
Materialism keeps you poor. So materialism and the obsession of materialism and image.
yes.
It keeps you, that kind of keeps you poor. And also the kind of community I'm in, right? The community I'm in, and they're all at a high level. Everybody's at a high level except me. Okay, it's like I was joking, right? I said everyone has awards on this movie except me and my brother, right?
Yeah.
But the level I'm in, I don't have that need. The kind of friends I have, the kind of community I'm in, the kind of respect I get in the community. I don't need to buy a fancy car.
To be respected
Yeah, I
and to have
don't.
the connection, because you create the connection.
Yeah,
Without it, you're able to create the connection and you have that foresight.
yeah.
You have that skill and sensibility, and then you found people who are of a tribe where it's the creativity and the conversation and the life experience and how you make me feel or
That's more
that
valuable.
matters. Mm-hmm.
I have another project, right? I did Wavelength. We wrote that in a month. I'm really excited about that. We had a proof of concept done with AI. My brother did, right? And I thought that was really cool tool for a filmmaker to make these proof of concepts. You may not need to actually go out and shoot something anymore. You can use AI to create like a little trailer. It won't look as good as a real thing, but it looks good. But then I had another screenplay called Below the Horizon, and you did, and I met you through that. You were reading for that in a table reading for Kimball, right? See, that screenplay is all about sex and dating in New York. And there's a character, and it was like a dating coach that's on YouTube videos. And at the time, I was watching these dating, like guys like Kevin Samuels, Andrew Tate. These guys are these alpha male kind of coaches to kind of get incels. The incel guys, right? I mean, they're really just, their issue is more like, I think they're just the social skills, not so much the money. But like these guys, all they do is talk about money, money, money. I had this, had this car, and talk about like, even Kevin Samuels talking about, okay, you don't got a big wallet. Guys will call in and tell these guys are worthless because they don't have money, right? But these guys are not in the art world. They're not in the film world. You know what I mean? They're not in the creative field. So it might be different in other subcultures, in society. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, true. And also like purpose is, I think purpose matters, right? Like whatever it is, whether like you could be a caretaker, someone who like brings dignity to the aging process, right? And have a calling and a purpose that gives meaning outside of just, I must make money. You make money to live, but there's like a greater contribution, a different kind of contribution. And they, I think that sometimes they miss out on the fact that there are different kinds of contribution to society and for people in general. And, it's like, and also you're right, there are different subcultures.
Yeah, I mean, like there's like this purpose, like, like a teacher, like a public school teacher, they don't make millions of dollars. They don't, but there might be there's other rewards for spiritual rewards. When it goes to materialism, there might be some people where buying a Rollie is this great euphoric experience for them, or great meaningful experience for them. I think my father about like his obsession with money. He never had it, but he had this obsession with money, and always talking about it like that. It would help him, I guess, be accepted to get a social life or something. The way he would talk about it, or get celebrated, or people kissing his ass. Whatever you want from money. Whatever. I mean, money to live is one thing. Money to live with dignity is one thing. But I mean, like, these people don't want to just live. They want to, I don't know what to thrive. I guess, thrive into almost excessive levels. But I mean, if that matters to them, that's fine. It just, I'm not.
That's not how you're driven. You're not driven in that way.
That's like this.
You're not driven in that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sort of cool to have like this whole other world and extra something to create, to build, to connect with. Like you even said it, you probably would not have thought that filmmaking would make you your social scene, and it just has impact all areas of your life. And I think that's profound.
Actually, even when I was a kid, I knew that film would actually give me a community. I knew that, because that's actually one thing that drew me to it as well, because I was watching stuff on Sundance, on TV. I was watching stuff at Cannes Film Festival, right? And just seeing people together that are on making movies, just seeing a group of people together. And, you see people give each other hugs, people shake hands. When I was a kid, it's like, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
That, right? Flash forward in Berlin. Like that's how crazy thing, how life works.
Well, I want to say congratulations on being on your way. I'm so glad we had this conversation. I know more about you now. And I look forward to seeing this film. Congrats. Till next time.